Michael Jordan sees a kid bullied for stuttering. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today, and if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. The gym was already full when Eli laced up his sneakers. Squeaky floors, the echo of bouncing balls, and the hum of nervous energy filled the air. This was the semifinals of the regional youth basketball tournament, one game from the finals, one step away from a dream. Eli sat quietly on the bench, fingers twitching around the knot of his shoelaces. He didn't say much before the games. Not because he didn't want to, but because words didn't always work the way he wanted them to. "Eli, ready?" Coach Brooks asked, clapping him on the back. Eli nodded fast, smiling despite the nerves, but didn't speak. His teammates gave him a quick fist bump as they huddled before warm-ups. Some meant it. Some just went through the motions. A few still weren't sure if they trusted the kid with the stutter to lead them when the game got close. Across the court, the other team walked in like they owned the place. They were taller, louder, and undefeated all season. Their star player, Jace, strutted in front, smirking at the crowd like it already belonged to him. Eli noticed a couple of his teammates shift in their shoes, stealing glances. Jace wasn't just good. He was cocky, ruthless, and the worst kind of loudmouth. Eli stood to take a few practice shots. As he dribbled to the wing, Jace strolled past and bumped him, not hard, but enough to get a reaction. "Hey, STST starter," Jace said mockingly, dragging out the words. "You gonna pass it before you trip over your own voice?" Eli didn't reply. He looked at the rim and took his shot. Swish. Jace shook his head and laughed, walking away. "Better hope you don't have to call a play, stutter boy." The insult hit harder than the bump. Eli returned to the bench. His hands were steady, but his chest felt tight. He'd heard worse. But hearing it in front of hundreds of people, right before the biggest game of his life, that was different. Up in the stands, someone else had heard it too. Michael Jordan, sitting in the third row beside the tournament organizer, didn't move or flinch. He just watched. He had come quietly. No announcement, no cameras. He was here to support a youth basketball charity that had once helped his friend's nephew. He didn't expect to see anything unusual. He certainly didn't expect to stay long. But that moment? That insult? That look in the kid's eyes? MJ stayed. The game tipped off with the kind of noise that shook the gym floor. Eli's team, the Grizzlies, came out fast, pushing the ball and catching the top-seeded squad off guard. Eli handled the point with crisp passes and smart decisions, despite the tension in his jaw. Still, every time he made a mistake, missed a pass, let a defender slip, he could hear Jace's voice in his head, even if Jace didn't say anything out loud. Sometimes it wasn't even Jace. It was the other kids over the years. In school. At camp. Online. He had lost count. By halftime, the score was close. The Grizzlies were down by 4, but they had momentum. Coach Brooks was fired up in the locker room, going over adjustments, but Eli sat at the edge of the bench, his mind elsewhere. "You good?" Jamal, one of the forwards, asked him. Why, yeah," Eli muttered. The word got stuck midway. He bit his lip. Jamal didn't reply. He just nodded and turned away. The silence hit harder than the stutter. Outside, down the hallway, the noise faded as Eli stepped out alone. He leaned against the wall, head tilted back, eyes closed. He hated how it came out. The stutter. It didn't happen when he was dribbling. Or passing. Or running. Just when he tried to speak. He hated that he still cared what kids like Jace said. Suddenly, someone walked up beside him. Quiet footsteps. A calm presence. "You played a smart first half." Eli opened his eyes. Michael Jordan stood next to him, arms crossed, leaning against the opposite wall like it was the most normal thing in the world. Eli stared. For a second, he thought he was dreaming. "I saw you," Eli managed. His voice cracked. He cleared his throat. I didn't KNO. MJ smiled gently. Didn't expect to see me? Eli nodded. MJ looked toward the end of the hall. Didn't expect to stay this long either. But then I saw something I've seen before. Eli waited, not sure what to say. Not sure if he had to say anything. When I was about your age, I froze during a press interview, MJ continued, eyes still on the hallway. They had a camera on me. Bright lights. I couldn't breathe. I forgot my words. Every sentence was a mess. I walked out feeling like I'd blown everything. Eli's eyes widened. Really? Yeah, MJ said. Everyone remembers the highlights. The championships. But they don't see what happens before the lights turn on. Eli stayed quiet, heart thumping. You've got something they don't teach in camps, MJ said. You're not just playing the other team. You're playing your own doubts. And you're still standing. That's rare. Eli blinked hard. His chest felt heavier and lighter at the same time. Let them talk, MJ added. You talk with your game. A whistle echoed down the hallway. Second half was about to begin. MJ pushed off the wall. Go finish what you started, kid. Eli looked up at him, nodded once, and ran back toward the locker room. MJ turned and walked the other way, back to his seat in the stands. For the first time all day, Eli didn't feel the weight of his voice. He felt the fire in his game. And this time, it was about to speak louder than ever. Eli jogged back into the gym just as the buzzer signaled the start of the second half. The crowd roared, the energy climbing. His teammates gave him curious glances as he took his spot in the huddle. You good now? Coach Brooks asked, low and firm. Eli nodded. Yeah. Jamal looked at him again. Not with doubt this time, but curiosity. Let's push pace, Coach said. Jace is cocky. Make him chase you. Eli, don't hesitate. Trust your read. Why up, Eli replied. No one laughed. The Grizzlies came out swinging. Eli took charge, running the offense like a conductor with a ball in his hands. He didn't call out plays loud. He used quick nods, sharp glances, and subtle hand signals. The team adjusted without question. For the first few possessions, the shift went unnoticed. But by the third one, where Eli fed a backdoor cut to Jamal for an easy bucket, even the commentators began to point it out. He's not calling plays verbally, one of them said. He's signaling. Fast. Smooth. Never seen that from a kid this young. Across the court, Jace noticed too. On the next defensive possession, Eli locked in on him. He forced him left, cut off the lane, and tipped the ball loose. Jamal scooped it up and threw it down the court. Easy layup. Tie game. The crowd got louder. A chant started in the bleachers. Let's go, Grizzlies. Jace demanded the ball on the next play. He powered into the lane, shoulders down, and drew a foul. As he walked to the line, he turned to Eli and muttered, "Lucky fluke." Eli didn't flinch. Jace hit both free throws, but the tone of the game had changed. Eli was controlling the tempo. Jace was reacting. With 5 minutes left in the game, the Grizzlies were up by 3. The bench was on their feet. Parents shouted from the stands. Every bucket now felt like it could swing the entire tournament. MJ stayed seated, leaning forward, elbows on knees, eyes locked on the game. No one bothered him. No one needed to. They were watching what he was watching, a kid growing in real time. Then came the moment. Grizzlies had the ball. Eli dribbled at the top, watching the floor. Jamal set a screen. Eli drove right, stopped, spun left, and bounced a no-look pass under the rim to his teammate, Trey. Wide open. Missed. The rebound bounced long. Jace grabbed it and took off. 2 defenders chased, but he pulled up at the arc. Swish. Tie game. Timeout Grizzlies. The gym shook. Coach Brooks clapped as the boys huddled. Breathe. Settle down. We're right here. Eli breathed in deep. Sweat poured off his forehead. His chest felt tight again. Not from nerves, but from knowing what came next. 30 seconds left. Tie game. Grizzlies ball. Coach leaned in. We're holding for the last shot. All eyes turned to Eli. He didn't speak. He just nodded, held up one finger, then two. The team nodded back. Out of the timeout, the crowd fell into a low hum. Everyone leaned forward. Phones out. Eyes wide. Eli crossed half court slow, dribbling high, watching the clock. Jay stepped up to guard him. No smile now. Just sharp focus. 10 seconds. Eli made his move. Right hand dribble, crossover left. Jace bit on it. Eli spun. Jamal's screen came just in time. Eli slipped through and headed to the rim. 4 seconds. Jace recovered and closed in fast. Another defender stepped up. Eli jumped, not to shoot, but to pass. Trey again. Same spot. Wide open under the basket. This time, Trey didn't miss. Buzzer. Grizzlies 58, Warriors 56. The gym exploded. Eli didn't celebrate. Not yet. He stood still for a second, breathing hard, watching Trey get mobbed. Then the crowd began chanting his name. Eli. 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 He smiled, just a little. Coach Brooks grabbed him in a bear hug, then turned him toward the crowd and lifted his arm. Jace walked off the court without saying anything. Eli turned and jogged to the handshake line, offering his hand without hesitation. Jace slapped it hard, quick. No eye contact. Didn't matter. MJ stood as the teams exited. He clapped once, slow, steady. No big scene. Just enough for Eli to notice as he walked past the bleachers. Eli paused and looked up. MJ gave a small nod, then turned and left. The locker room buzzed. Players screamed, threw towels, danced. Trey apologized for the earlier miss. Eli just laughed and said, why you made the one that mattered. Coach clapped his hands. Tomorrow, finals. Be ready. You earned this. As the noise settled, Eli sat down and pulled his phone from his bag. A message popped up. Unknown number. You ever need someone to back you up again, I'm one call away. MJ. Eli stared at it for a long moment. Then he smiled. Not the small one this time, a real one. One that came from somewhere deeper. Outside the locker room, fans lined up for photos. But Eli didn't walk out with a chest puffed out or arms raised. He walked out calm. Steady. Head high. A few reporters tried to rush him for a quote, but Trey stepped in. Let him talk when he's ready. Eli turned to his teammate, surprised. Trey just shrugged. You already said enough today, man. The finals were tomorrow. But tonight? Eli had already won something bigger. The night before the finals, Eli couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every second of the game in his mind. The noise, the pressure, the final pass to Trey. The roar of the crowd. And then the message from MJ. One call away. Eli wasn't even sure how Jordan got his number, but the message felt real. Not just a compliment, more like a promise. He picked up his phone, opened the message again, and typed, "THTH thank you. I won't forget." He paused, erased the stutter, and retyped it without it. Then erased that too. He left it blank and set the phone down. This wasn't about how he sounded. It was about how he played. That was enough. The next morning, the tournament buzz was different. People recognized Eli now. A few kids asked for photos. Parents whispered when he passed by. His teammates looked at him with something new in their eyes, respect. Even Coach Brooks seemed to give him more space, letting him lead the shoot-around with barely a word. The final game was held in the main court of the city center, bigger crowd, louder fans, more cameras. The mayor was in attendance. Even local TV showed up to broadcast it live. And sitting courtside, quietly, in a plain black jacket and jeans, was Michael Jordan. He didn't speak. Didn't wave. But the second Eli saw him, something inside him locked in. The opposing team, the Vipers, was a different beast. Fast. Organized. Tough defense. No trash talkers, just serious ball players. Their point guard, Devin, was tall and built like he already belonged on a high school varsity team. The tip-off was a scramble, but the Vipers won it. They came out swinging, running sharp cuts and draining mid-range shots. Within minutes, the Grizzlies were down 10-2. Coach called timeout. "This isn't yesterday's game," he warned. "You want this? Then dig deeper." He looked at Eli. "Lead." Eli nodded. He didn't speak. Just walked back on the court and clapped twice. Next possession, he took the ball up, scanned the defense, and attacked. He drove past Devin, dished it to Trey again, another bucket. The game tightened. Play after play, the Grizzlies clawed back. Eli didn't score much himself, but he controlled the floor. He called out signals with his hands, even threw in a few short vocal calls when needed. Clear. Sharp. Every time he pushed the ball, MJ's words came back to him. Let your game talk. By halftime, the score was tied at 34. In the locker room, the team was fired up. But Eli stayed calm. He pulled Coach aside. "LLL let me run a different set in the third," he said. "TT their 3-2 zones GGG giving us space baseline." Coach raised an eyebrow. "That from the kid who barely spoke last week?" Eli grinned. "I've been thinking about it a while." Coach clapped his shoulder. "Do it." The third quarter started with Eli in full control. He waved off a few early screens and started isolating Devin. Not to score, but to pull the Vipers' defense out of position. Jamal and Trey rotated off each other on quick cuts, and the Grizzlies suddenly opened up a 6-point lead. The crowd noticed. The chants came back. "Eli! Eli!" Devin answered with a deep three. Then another. Then a steal and a layup. The Vipers tied it again. Eli didn't panic. He walked the ball up, looked at his teammates, and gave a calm nod. He didn't have to yell. They just followed. Late in the fourth, it was still tied. MJ hadn't moved the whole game. Just watched. Then it happened. 2 minutes to go. Eli crossed half court and tripped. His ankle twisted hard as he hit the floor. The ball flew out of bounds. Whistle blew. He grabbed his leg, wincing. The gym went silent. Coach ran out. "Can you walk?" Eli stood slowly. He tested the ankle. He could stand, but it hurt. Bad. "We can sub," Coach said. Eli looked at the scoreboard. Looked at his team. "I'm okay." Coach hesitated, then nodded. The game resumed. Eli limped slightly but kept going. With under a minute left, Devin drove and scored. Vipers up by 2. Grizzlies called timeout. No drawn plays this time. Everyone looked at Eli. He gave a short hand signal, the same one from yesterday. 2 cuts. Baseline flash. Backdoor screen. The team nodded. They inbound the ball. Clock ticking. Eli walked it up slowly, dribbling left. Devin pressed him, seeing the limp. Tried to steal. Eli pulled back. Pump faked. Caught him off guard. Then, from the top, Eli passed to Jamal, who spun baseline, then kicked it out to Trey on the wing. Three-pointer. All net. Grizzlies up by 1. The crowd erupted. MJ stood, just once, arms folded. But the game wasn't over. Vipers called timeout with 12 seconds left. They inbound. Devin had the ball. Final shot. He drove. Pulled up. Eli jumped on the contest. Blocked. Ball hit the court. Eli dived, ankle be damned. Jamal scooped it up. Whistle. Buzzer. Game. Grizzlies 61, Vipers 60. Bedlam. Fans ran onto the court. Coaches hugged. The announcer could barely be heard. Eli sat on the floor, gripping his ankle, but laughing. MJ walked over slowly, through the chaos. He didn't say anything right away. Just helped Eli up. "You made them listen," he said. Eli nodded. And not with my VV voice." MJ smiled. "Exactly." The cameras swarmed, but MJ kept it short. One sentence to the reporters. "This kid reminded me what basketball is really about." And with that, he disappeared into the crowd. Eli's teammates lifted him on their shoulders. He didn't need to talk anymore. Everyone already heard him loud and clear. Eli limped through the tunnel with a bag of ice taped to his ankle. His teammates stayed behind for interviews, but Coach Brooks walked beside him. "You sure you're good?" Coach asked. "I'll be okay," Eli said, grinning. "That's what they all say right before they collapse," Coach replied, half joking. They stepped into the back hallway of the arena. Quiet now. Just the sound of their sneakers echoing against the floor. As they reached the player exit, a man in a tournament staff polo approached. "Eli," the guy said, "someone's waiting for you outside. Says he just wants 5 minutes." Eli's heart jumped. Coach glanced at him. "You want me to stay?" Eli shook his head. "I got it." He stepped outside. The sun was dipping low. Cameras were still gathered near the front lot, but this side of the building was calm. Michael Jordan stood by a black SUV with tinted windows, hands in his pockets, sunglasses pushed up on his head. "You made the right call staying in that game," MJ said as Eli approached. "Could have bowed out. No one would have blamed you." Eli shrugged. "ICC couldn't. Not after what USS said yesterday." MJ nodded. "That ankle's going to hurt tomorrow." "Already DDD does." They both chuckled. Then MJ grew serious. "I didn't just stop by for congratulations," he said. "You've got something special, Eli. Not just talent. You've got presence. A way of leading without yelling. That's rare." Eli stayed quiet. He wasn't sure where this was going. "There's a camp I help run. Low-key, invite only. No influencers. No cameras. Just real kids and real work. I think you belong there." Eli blinked. "I really think ICC could." MJ held up a hand. "Don't ask me if you're good enough. You've already shown that. Question is, do you want to keep building?" Eli didn't hesitate. "Yes." "Good. I'll have someone call your coach," MJ said, pulling out a small card and handing it to him. "Keep this. It's not a promise of fame. Just a door." Eli stared at the card. "No logo. Just a number." MJ stepped toward the SUV. "Take care of that ankle. See you in June." With that, he was gone. Back home, the next few weeks were a blur. Local news covered the championship. Eli's inbox filled with messages, former classmates, coaches, even some scouts. People who used to look past him now asked for interviews. They called him the silent leader, the court general, the voice without words. He found it ironic. All this attention for how he didn't talk. At school, things changed fast. Teachers gave him nods in the hallway. Kids who used to imitate his stutter now tried to sit next to him at lunch. One even apologized. But the person Eli noticed most wasn't loud at all. It was his little sister, Maya, who watched every game replay with wide eyes, as if she still couldn't believe it had happened. "You didn't think I could do it?" Eli asked one day, grinning. "I always knew you could," Maya said. "But now they know too." They both laughed. Still, something in Eli had shifted. He started staying later at the gym. Not because anyone told him to. Just because it felt right. Coach Brooks noticed. "You already won the big one, Eli. You can breathe, you know. I don't want to just be remembered for one GGG game." "Good," Coach said. "Because real players are made in quiet gyms." When the invitation letter came in the mail, Eli opened it 3 times just to make sure it was real. Michael Jordan Flight Camp, Player Acceptance, Eli Brooks. June 12th to 18th. Asheville, North Carolina. He folded the paper, stuck it in his backpack, and didn't tell anyone for 2 days. Then, after practice, he showed Coach. Coach whistled low. "That's big." Eli didn't say much, but the way his hands trembled slightly gave it away. Coach clapped him on the back. "We'll make sure you're ready." The weeks leading up to camp were intense. Eli rehabbed his ankle every morning, trained in the afternoons, and watched film at night. He studied point guards, Paul, Kidd, Stockton. He looked for things most kids didn't. Spacing. Tempo. Patience. Maya sat with him sometimes. "Why do you pause the game every 10 seconds?" she asked once. "Because GGG greatness happens in moments people skip." She tilted her head. "That's kinda deep." He smirked. Why you're welcome." The night before camp, Eli packed quietly. Just shoes, clothes, and a worn notebook where he wrote down plays and thoughts. On the first page, he scribbled a single sentence. "I don't need to speak like them to play beyond them." His mom hugged him tight before the flight. Maya gave him her lucky wristband, just a cloth string with beads, and said, "You better come back with stories." "I will," he promised. Asheville was different. Cool air. Mountains in the distance. The camp wasn't flashy, just a private facility surrounded by trees, with no press and no distractions. Only 20 players were invited. Eli was the youngest. The first day was tough. Everyone was good. Bigger. Sharper. Faster. But Eli didn't flinch. He stuck to what he knew. Quick reads. Fast passes. Moving without the ball. His voice barely left his mouth, but coaches noticed him immediately. On the second day, MJ arrived. He didn't come in with fanfare. Just walked into the gym during a drill and started watching. Later that night, he sat the players down for a talk. "People think greatness is about highlight reels," MJ said. "But it's really about the stuff no one sees. Early mornings. Quiet failures. The doubts. The pressure. The pain." He looked at Eli briefly, then kept going. "If you're here, it's because you've already shown you're different. But what you do next? That's what counts. No applause. Just silence. Reflection." Eli lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling again, but this time, it felt different. He didn't just belong here. He was ready for what came next. On the final day of flight camp, the gym was quiet. No scrimmages, no drills, just chairs arranged in a circle. The coaches stood off to the side. Michael Jordan stepped into the middle. He looked around the group, his expression calm. "You've all earned your spot here. Not by luck, but by work. And before we close this out, I want each of you to say one thing, what you've learned this week that you didn't expect to." The players glanced around, unsure at first. Then one by one, they started speaking. "I learned I'm not as fast as I thought. I learned leadership isn't always yelling. I learned I've been playing for attention, not for the game. Eli sat near the end. When it came to his turn, he hesitated. Then he stood. ILL learned I don't have to hide in my voice anymore. The room went quiet. I thought my STST stutter made me weak. But it doesn't. I don't talk a lot, but ILL listen. I watch. I lead. And that's enough. Jordan didn't say anything right away. Just gave a slow nod. When the session ended, the players were handed folders. Inside were evaluations, notes from coaches, and personal letters from MJ himself. Eli's letter was short. You proved it on the court. But more importantly, you proved it to yourself. That's what real players do. Keep leading. Keep listening. Keep playing your way. MJ. Later that afternoon, as the players packed up to leave, Jordan pulled Eli aside. You've got a future in this game, he said. But even if you don't go pro, you've already done what most players never do, you changed someone's mind. That matters. Eli nodded. Thank you. For everything. Jordan smiled. You earned it. Back home, summer turned to fall. Eli returned to school a different kid, not because his stutter was gone, but because it no longer owned him. He was invited to speak at a school assembly a few weeks after camp. When his name was called, some kids in the crowd looked surprised. Eli stood at the podium, hands in his pockets, heart pounding. I don't speak the way some people do, he began. But I'll still speak. He told the story of the tournament. Of the mocking. Of MJ's words. He didn't skip the stutter. He didn't hide it. And by the time he finished, the entire auditorium was silent. No one laughed. They clapped. Not out of pity, but out of respect. Eli walked off stage with his head high. That night, he found Maya sitting at the dining table working on a school project. I heard you talked in front of everyone, she said. I did. Did you stutter? Of CC course. Did they care? Nope. Maya smiled. Cool. A few days later, Coach Brooks pulled him aside after practice. I got a call from a prep school in Georgia, he said. They're building a new team. Saw you at camp. They want you to visit. Eli blinked. Me? They saw what you can do. And more importantly, how you carry yourself. Eli sat with his mom that night and went through everything: location, classes, housing, scholarships. It wasn't about fame. It was about the next step. He looked at the offer letter and remembered the card MJ had given him months ago. He pulled it from his desk drawer, dialed the number. Yeah, a voice answered. This is Marcus. You're one of Mike's camp kids? Eli introduced himself. You thinking about Georgia? Why yet? Good program. But don't pick it for the name. Pick it if it makes you better. Eli thanked him and hung up. He made his decision that weekend. The night before he left, he walked back to the same gym where it all started. The old floor, the dusty bleachers, the fading championship banner from the tournament. He stood at center court and looked around. No crowd. No cameras. Just the echo of the ball bouncing and the rhythm of his breathing. He took a few shots. Free throws. Layups. One deep three. They all felt smooth. Coach Brooks showed up halfway through. Couldn't sleep either, he asked. Eli smiled. Just in and needed one last run. You ready for this next chapter? I think so. Coach stepped onto the court. Mind if I get a few shots in? They played one-on-one until midnight. At Georgia Prep, Eli found new challenges. Bigger players. Faster games. More expectations. But he kept his head down and worked. He didn't become the loudest guy in the room. But when he talked, people listened. His team captain once said, he doesn't need to say much. You just follow him. He got the nickname Quiet Storm. Reporters started writing stories. One called him the point guard who speaks and plays. Another said he led without sound, but made the loudest statement of the season. Eli didn't care much about that. What mattered most to him was that Maya now walked into school more confident. That his classmates didn't just accept him, they looked up to him. And that somewhere out there, another kid with a voice like his might see what was possible. One night, a package arrived in the mail. No return address. Inside was a framed photo from the tournament final. Eli diving for the ball, ankle twisted, face locked in. On the back was a handwritten note. Sometimes the loudest thing you can do is keep going. MJ. Eli hung it on his wall. And every time he laced up his shoes, he didn't think about the stutter. He thought about the game. The team. The people watching who needed to see someone like him not just survive, but win. Because Eli Brooks never needed to sound like everyone else. He just needed to show up. And when he did, the world listened.